All right. Good morning. Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. Not sure when you're watching this, but I'm glad you're back for day 2 on raising confident kids. And today we're going to be talking about understanding confidence and how it works, what it means. And so I'm really glad you're here. So thank you for joining us. A little bit about me. My name is Anastasia Arauz. I am a child and family therapist and a family life coach. And yesterday I talked a little bit about my background. Additionally, I have now a family of 3. I'll talk about that today because I didn't mention it yesterday. I have a family of my own. I have a husband and a son, and then my husband has 2 other children that are 19 and 16. And so, yeah, we have 5 altogether. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my family now. If you want to know more about me, I talked about that yesterday. So make sure you check it out. So today we're going to be talking about the understanding confidence. And so before we start, just like we did yesterday, I want to do a little bit of just grounding work. This is something I'm getting very into because I'm learning more and more about the importance of it and how it helps us focus and just ground ourselves and get ready to hear what's going to be presented. So let's go ahead and get started. So the work we're going to do today is breath work. Yesterday we did a body scan. So this is another thing you can do if you want to feel grounded. And so I'll teach you a little bit about that. I thought we would start with one that's pretty easy that I've learned, and it's called box breathing. You might have heard of it. It's called 4x4 breathing or equal breathing, 4 square breathing, square breathing. It has different names, but it's a great, easy way to get started with breath work. And if you've never done it, we're going to do it together in a second, but it will help you feel less anxious, less overwhelmed. Um, It'll help if you learn to do a technique, you will be able to do it more even under those situations that are super, super stressful. Because sometimes people will say, you just need to breathe. And you're like, yeah, right. Like I cannot do that. But the more you practice it in situations that's not super, super stressful, you'll be able to do it in those high intense situations. So the benefits really are to lower your stress and to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That really helps, as well as it calms your mind. So you're going to be ready to take in all the information I'm going to share with you today. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want you to do is go ahead and just put both your feet on the ground, just like we did yesterday. Sit up straight, take a deep breath in and out, just real quick. Get ready. All right. So don't put too much pressure to do this and master it right away, right? This takes practice. And so once we've done this together, feel free to rewatch this or look it up, and you can see other people that have done it. You can do it, watch it on a YouTube video, or there's also the Calm app, which I talked about yesterday. So there's other people that do this that you can model, and then you will just get better at it as you do. So you don't want to go too slowly or too quickly. And so just make sure that you're breathing very gently and not straining. All right, so here we go. So we're going to breathe out slowly. So let's release all the air from our lungs. Okay, so we're getting it all out. Now you're going to breathe in through your nose as slowly as you can and count to 4 in your head. And then be conscious of how the air fills your lungs and stomach. So we're filling up our lungs and our stomach, so it should be pushing out. So we're going to breathe in, count for 4, hold it for 4, and then exhale for 4. And then you do it again. So we'll just do it. I'm not going to talk while we're doing it because I can't, obviously. So here we go. All right, let's do it again. One more time. All right, so that's an easy one I wanted to share with you guys today. You notice I close my eyes, so your eyes can be open or closed when you do it, but it definitely helps get us ready, and we'll go ahead and get started. So remember, breath work helps to calm you. So hopefully that did calm you. All right, so what is confidence? All right, so confidence is, I got this definition. I thought it's really good just to start with that so we can get a clear picture of what it is. It actually can be derived from its Latin roots, which to be explained as with trust or with faith or with belief, which appears correct, right? So if you have confidence, you're trusting, you're faithful in yourself, you believe in yourself. And so a confident child displays a belief in his or her own abilities. Such a belief is developed over time, but hinges upon the ability to experience self trust. So kids start developing this like immediately, right? That's when they start beginning this trust, is when they're born, with their attachment to you and how you have provided safety and security to them. That is all part of building that confidence. And so we all do that with our babies, right? We're all providing that security, safety. You come when they're crying, you feed them when they're hungry. So that's all part of that beginning, implementing of teaching your child confidence. So what does it look like? Okay, so confidence, and I'm sure you've thought of some of these things before, but I think it's important that we look at them individually, and then I'm going to show you what it doesn't look like. It is positive self-esteem, proud of themselves. So a child that is confident is proud of who they are. They're proud of themselves when they make a goal or when they get a good grade on a test. They're better problem solvers. They have the try again attitude. They don't, once they do something, they just don't give up automatically because they didn't get it right. They have belief in themselves. They are self-motivated and they have fewer behavior problems. So a child that possesses these is probably pretty confident. And think about yourself when you read that. How are you on each of those different things I just listed off? Do you have those within yourself? Because if you do, you're probably modeling those for your child. And I'm assuming you don't have a lot of behavior problems, but with kids, they don't have the language yet a lot of times to express how they're feeling. So a lot of times what will come out is the behavior problems of, like, say they're not sitting in their seat in class, or they're talking constantly in class, or they're doing things to get the teacher frustrated, or they're at home and they're not eating their dinner and it's hard to convince them to eat it, or they don't want to put away their toys, and it just becomes it's more problematic than typical. Okay, and so they're also going to be self-motivated, but don't let that mean that you don't help them stay a little motivated along the way. But as they get older, it becomes bigger and bigger where they are self-motivated. All right, what does it not look like? So negative self-image, blaming others, being self-critical, avoiding new people and experiences, lacking confidence and motivation, having an I can't attitude, feeling ashamed or embarrassed, or bullying. So I've got a lot of these from this group called the Stanford Health Parenting Services, and I thought it was great examples, and that's why I use them here. So I think the big one that I wanted to talk about here is blaming others. A lot of times if kids cannot take responsibility for something that has occurred, that is a lack of confidence, because they're either fearful that they'll get in trouble, fearful what people will think, fearful of what they'll think of themselves. So the blaming others is a big one. If you have a child that does that, that's just something to work on. They might be confident in some areas, but that blaming part is a big key to helping them get through that. So that's something to think about. The other one is having an I can't attitude. If they are someone that just is constantly like, I can't, I don't want to, it's another one you want to work on that with them. Bullying, if you have a child that bullies others, it's definitely someone that is struggling with their confidence because they're trying to feel important and have power, but it hasn't happening in a healthy way. So they do it with other kids or in places that they shouldn't. So we all need power, confidence. We need to have control in our lives. And if we don't have that, we're not going to be confident, and we're going to have some of these behaviors. Make sense? All right. So how can this help you help your child, right? So how can me telling you these lists of what's confident and what's not confident, how does that help you help your child? Well, hopefully, and you can go back to those other lists, it will give you some empathy of what they're going through. Remember, they're a child and they're learning, right? So they're just all of a sudden not going to know all of those things. You're going to have to guide them. So just understanding to have some empathy for them. Now you're understanding why they do certain things the way they do. So you're learning what you need to do to support them. So I want you to go back to your journal that we started yesterday, if you started one. And what can you do when you see your child doing something that is inappropriate, like the behavior problem? Is it because they're being bad, or is it because they don't have a real strong confidence in themselves? So think about how you can support them in a better way. Start changing what you do if it isn't working. That's the other thing. So once you've heard my 3 days of these challenges, what things are you going to change in your home that you can do if it's not working and you want to bring more confidence to your child? Accept them when they are struggling. So if you have a child that gets embarrassed easily, don't push them to be like, just go do it. Do it. There's nothing to worry about. Go do it. It's not going to matter. No one cares. It needs to be more of an acceptance and meeting them where they are when they're in times like that, right? So hopefully by understanding, now you're going to be able to accept them more and not push them, because that's just going to make it harder on them. And they're not going to feel safe or secure, which is then going to then make them less confident. Provide love and understanding, which all of us do for our children. Understand this all takes time. Remember, if you have a child that's 11 or 12, you've done 12 years with them. And if they're not confident, there's a reason, right? So it's going to take time to help build the confidence. The other thing is it takes time and presence from you. They can't, being with a child cannot be rushed. And so making sure you're taking the time to understand what is happening and why they are doing the things that they're doing. And also give yourself grace and know that you are doing all you know. And now you're learning better, right? So you can't not, if you don't know, you don't know. So don't feel guilty about it or beat yourself up about it. Give yourself grace to know that now you can know what to do something better. All right, so those were my main tips for how we understand confidence. And I didn't want to keep you too long today. So I have 3 books, or a movie and a couple books, that I wanted to tell you about that I think are really good resources for you to check into. So the first one I wanted to tell you about is The No Drama Discipline by Daniel Siegel. Now, if you remember yesterday, I talked about him also. He did the other parenting book that I mentioned. And this one's another very popular one. It was written, I think, in 2016. And again, it talks about the brain. I love stuff with the brain because that's our computer and that's what keeps us going and why we do the things we do, So this really talks about how you discipline your child, right? And how you can do it in a way that's going to bring confidence and nurture them. So you're not pushing them down or making them feel bad. You're building them up, but you're still providing discipline. You're not just giving in to what they want or what they say. So it's a great book on what you can do. And also has some pictures in there that are really helpful. So that's a great one that you should check out. The next thing I put on here was the movie Wonder, or the book. Now, this is a kid's book. And if you haven't read it or seen it, what I like about this book, it's about a little boy that has a facial deformity, and I believe it's fiction. But what's really cool about it is how his parents handled this child. And so it's a great book for you and your kids, for them to watch how he gained so much confidence, and then how his parents deal with it all. They provide a great model of what we all can do as parents to help our kids. So it's a great one that you can watch with your kids or on your own, because as we know, kids can be mean. And in this book, you'll see how the kids are really mean, but how this little boy overcomes it and how his parents support him in this role. So check it out. That's the other one I wanted to tell you about. And then the final one is called I Am by Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you know who Wayne Dyer is. He has passed away now, but he was a spiritual teacher for many, many years. And I actually first saw him on PBS, on the public broadcast system. And he used to do these free, I guess, like webinars. It was before webinars and stuff. So it was like these free 3-hour things you could watch. And he would be trying to sell a book, but he always had really, really great ideas that would help you do well in life, right? I really liked him. He actually changed my life in one of the ones I watched, and that's for another day. But this book is a really, really nice book for confidence for you and for your child. It is spiritual, not really religious. You could be any religion in like this book. So basically it's teaches simple messages about how God is not far off in the distance and that he is beside us. And so we're not separate from God. We are God. And so I am, it's just a great way to understand that I am confident. I am a blessing. I am here for a purpose. So it's a really, really nice book about how you can meet your greatest potential in life. And I think it's good for all of us to read. Um, my husband actually had bought this for his son at one point, and that's the first time I had seen this book of Wayne Dyer's. But it's a really, really nice book. So I'm interested to know what you think of these or if you've read any of these before. I would love to see your comments. But those were the 3 resources I wanted to share with you today because I think they can be helpful. I know that you're watching this, so you're interested in having confident kids. And so sometimes you might want a little more or need a little more. I'm always reading and learning more because it's hard, right? It's hard raising kids. It's hard doing the things. So those are a few I wanted to share with you. And finally, today's homework is I want you to journal, like really sit down and think about how you will change. What are some things you're going to do different? And list some ideas of some things you've thought about that you can do to help your child. Um, what are some things that you will maybe not necessarily change all the way, but maybe a little bit, maybe how you respond a little bit differently. I'll give you an example of something that happened today, this morning, actually, with my son. He was very angry that he did not have a long sleeve shirt for school. And we're at a new school this year, so he has to wear a collared shirt. And I only have one of them, and he doesn't like it because he says it's too big. So we've all been there where he's telling me he's not going to school. And I'm in a hurry because we're trying to get there. I don't want to be late. So at first I'm kind of like irritated. And then I realize what's happening. And it's not that he's trying to be a jerk or be disrespectful or rude, which he's being those things, but it's because he is in that part of his brain, that fear part, that he can't control himself. So I asked him to take a break for a minute. I put the timer on. I said, why don't you go ahead and take a break? Let's figure out what's happening. He ends up finding a shirt. So on the way to school, right? So this all took time. We talked about why that happened. In that I asked him, I was like, why were you so upset? I said, what were you scared? Because it's the fear part of the brain that kicks on. What were you scared was going to happen? Why were you so upset about this whole shirt situation when you have other shirts you can wear? And it's not that cold today. And he said he was scared that it was going to be cold. He was going to be too cold in the classroom. And I said, oh, I completely understand. And I am sorry that you felt that way. And we're going to have to look for getting you a few more shirts that will work for the winter time. And so instead of me like freaking out, which sometimes I do, I'm not perfect, I had a conversation with him and explained how we could do this better. And so tomorrow when it's time for school and he still doesn't have any new shirts, how is this going to look differently? So we came up with a plan for tonight. We're going to go through his shirts of things that we can wear to school and help him so he doesn't have that fear response in the morning and that he is prepared. So I hope that helps you think of a way to redirect your child or how to reframe it when they start doing things or saying things that make you feel angry, which happened to me quite a bit with a 9-year-old. All right. So I want to let you know I'm offering family coaching. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I would love to help you with creating new routines, helping you with your discipline. I worked in schools for years, so I'd love to navigate education and how to help your child through that. Teaching you some new communication strategies, also goals and expectations you have for your kids. So it's whatever you need. I would love to help you with it. So just make sure you let me know. Yeah. So hopefully today, after listening, you understand confidence a little bit more of why it happens. What are the good parts about it? What are things that don't show confidence? And it will help you. So let me know. And then tomorrow is the final day of our challenge. And we're going to be talking about some more ways that you can help your children be confident. I'm going to give you more examples, a different way to look at it. So make sure you check it out. And I will see you then. And have a great day. And we'll see you soon. Bye.